This is the Carl DeMaio Show, and you're going to get the story behind the story. We're leading the fight to take back our state for a better California. On this episode, I want to talk about a topic that a lot of people might find boring, but it's what got me involved in politics. Pension reform. Oh, I know. Don't let your eyes glaze over. This is really important because it's where a lot of your money's going that you pay in taxes, and it is really the driver of financial insolvency in the state of California for state and local government. And it's so important that we understand this crisis, the government pension crisis, because it is going to bring our state and local government agencies to the brink of bankruptcy. So let me kind of set the stage here. Everyone deserves a reliable retirement, right? We want everyone to feel safe and secure in retirement. You should be able to kick back and enjoy your golden years. Let's start there. But what is not acceptable is the notion that people should be able to gouge taxpayers for gold-plated pensions that they haven't earned. And that's why what you see going on in the government pension programs is not just about the fact that we can't afford it, that it's creating billions and billions of dollars of unfunded debt that taxpayers are going to have to pay off. But the bigger issue is not just the debt, the financial problem. It's the unfairness. It is the outrageous nature of the pension payouts being given, bestowed, gifted to government employees. It's offensive to taxpayers to see, working families and middle-class taxpayers scrimping and saving and not able to retire, not able to afford prescription drugs in retirement, having to extend their employment past where they reasonably can work, staying up at night worrying about how they're going to pay for things in their retirement, when government employees get six-figure pensions. Yeah, six-figure pensions. Government employees are getting pensions that are more generous, a higher payout than the salary they actually worked while they were actually employed. And it's a government idea. If you're paid more not to work than you were paid actually to work. So let's start out with some facts. The way the government pension system works is government employees are supposed to pay into the pension fund, and government as an employer, the taxpayers, are supposed to pay in the employer contribution. That then is supposed to be invested, in the stock market, managed by professional investment managers, and then the proceeds should be able to pay reasonable pensions. But here's how the scam got created. This is why it's a Ponzi scheme. The likes of Bernie Madoff. The politicians who are controlled by the government employee unions were approached by the union bosses, and they said, hey, not only do we want salary hikes, but we want pension spikes. Then they say it that way, by the way. Hey, come here. I'm going to break your kneecaps if you don't give me what you want. Give me what I want. The union boss goes to the politician, which they put into office through campaign cash, and they say, not only do we want you to pay us more, and you have to draw from the budget and the checking account for the city, but you can basically give us goodies that you don't have to pay for today. And the politician's like, ooh, I get to give away goodies and we don't actually have to have the money. I can actually give things away for free. Wonderful. Let's do it. Magic wand time. And that's how these pension systems work, is that what they do is they say, let's spike the pension benefit that is due to the employee when they retire 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now. It doesn't cost the government anything today because you don't actually start paying for that until the person retires. So for them, it's free money. You can do something and nobody notices that we just decided to give something away and we don't have the money to pay for it. That's for someone down the line to worry about. And so that's how these pension scams got started. Is the first thing they did is they sweetened the pot by basically giving a more generous retirement formula. Second, what they did is they said to the government employees, hey, don't worry about paying your share. We won't take your contribution out of your paycheck. You get to keep that money. It's like extra take-home pay. And you might say, well, Carl, if they're not contributing to the fund what they should be contributing, then we're not going to have enough money in the investment fund to generate the revenue to pay the pensions. Well, yeah, you and I see that clear as day, but the media didn't see it. And that's what happened is a lot of these government agencies cooked up a scam where they allowed government employees to skip their contributions for the cost of pensions. And in some cases, like the city of San Diego, the employer itself skipped their required contribution. It's like basically saying, oh, I'm not going to pay my mortgage this month. Well, you're just going to start accruing interest. And that will yield a foreclosure, but not in government pensions, because state and local government pensions are not regulated the same way that private sector pension systems are regulated. The theory was that, we have to worry about corporations rating the pension systems of their employees, but we don't have to worry about state and local government because they're government. They're the good guys. No, they're on the take. They're scam artists just like anyone else. And so ERISA, which is a law that regulates private sector pension systems, ERISA was never applied to government pension programs because you can always trust those government, elected officials. They won't do anything bad. They're never on the take. Oh, they're the first on the front of the line when it comes to financial chicanery and creating debt. Another way pension systems have created debt and become a Ponzi scheme. First way is they sweeten the benefit formula out in the future without paying for it. The second thing is they skip their payments by both employees and the government employer. Third way is they cook the books. They basically make rosy assumptions about return on investment. Or they sell service years to employees at a bargain basement price. They can say, well, look, you can buy an extra 5 years of service as though you worked it. It spikes your pension formula, and we're going to sell it to you on 10 cents on the dollar. That happened in the city of San Diego. They've cooked the books. They are assuming 7 to 8% return on investment in many of these state and local pension systems annually, every single year. And in years where they get excess earnings, 13%, 12%, 10%, they don't keep it for the rainy day fund. They don't keep it for bad years when the stock market goes down by 5%. No. They pay out a 13th check in the city of San Diego. They say, oh, extra money above the 7%. We'll give all those benefits, the payouts to the government workers. It's Enron-style accounting. It is a scam. So what has the net result been? The net result has been nearly $500 billion of unfunded pension and retiree health care liabilities in the state of California alone. $500 billion. And a Stanford research team recently did an assessment where they came up with an estimate that it is more like $1 trillion of unfunded debt in the state of California for state and local pensions alone. So the first part of this problem is the massive debt that's been created. That in some cases it's going to lead to bankruptcy. In other cases it's going to result in massive tax increases to service the debt and massive service cuts. The pension payment in the city of San Diego fluctuates between $300 and $500 million annually. It used to be about $40 million. Yeah. And so where do you come up with all those extra pension costs? To service the debt, you got to cut services. And so you and I are paying higher taxes and receiving less services as a result. But there is a second, more offensive and more concerning element or side to this problem. And when we come back, we're going to go through that. And I'll also walk through my plan to reform pension payouts and reform the pension systems on the Carl DeMaio Show. But first, these messages.
Carl DeMaio here. From rating our road improvement funds for bus and bike lanes to gas taxes and congestion taxes, politicians keep making it harder to drive. Traffic will only get worse unless we demand change. Join me, Carl DeMaio, by signing the petition at fixsandiegoroads.org.
Carl DeMaio thinks it's time to clean up the mess in Congress and take a new approach to solving problems. That's why Carl DeMaio is proposing the Fix Congress First plan. Make Congress live under the same laws the rest of us do. No special exemptions. Eliminate lavish congressional pensions and other perks. Force Congress to open up its own books and records to public review. Make Congress read the bills first before they vote on them. No budget, no pay. Permanently take away Congress's pay for every day the budget is late. If we want better results from Washington, we need to start by fixing Congress first. That's why it's time to help Carl DeMaio get his Fix Congress First plan enacted. Sign Carl's petition and help fix Congress first.
You're listening to the Carl DeMaio Show, and we're talking about pension reform and the great government pension crisis that we are facing. Are your eyes glazed over yet? I kind of joke about it. It's a topic that a lot of people are confused by, but it's so critically important because the reason why we have massive deficits, the reason why we have service costs that are service cuts, like potholes and inadequate services to our communities. The reason why your water bill is so expensive. Oh yeah, your pension costs, government pension costs are in the water rates that you pay. The reason why all that's happening and you're bearing the brunt is because we have a pension crisis and we are servicing debt that's unserviceable. And so we're talking $1 trillion of debt, according to the Stanford University study. Could be half a trillion, 500 billion, according to the government numbers, for unfunded pension and government retiree healthcare costs. But there's another angle to this that's truly concerning, and that is how offensive some of the payouts are. So when I got elected to the San Diego City Council, one of the first payouts I started pointing out to the public was a librarian, city librarian, and she started pulling in a pension of $234,000 a year, and that's in 2009. Oh yeah, 2009, $234,000 a year. With all the cost of living increases over the last 10 years, her pension for a city librarian, $260,000. It's obscene. It's criminal. Well, it's not quite criminal because the politicians made this legal. $260,000 for a city librarian? Don't tell your kids to go become doctors or lawyers. Tell them to go learn the Dewey Decimal System. It's quite profitable. It's obscene. Another study was rank and file, blue collar, white collar workers, trash truck drivers, clerks, not police, not fire, because they get even more generous pensions. We're talking about the run-of-the-mill basic employee in a government agency, a bureaucrat. They are getting 129% of their highest salary for life under the city of San Diego pension system. 129% of their highest salary for life when they retire. Oh, and it's worse. It gets worse. They have something called the DROP program. The DROP program allows them to get early retirement. They retire, and then they continue working for 5 years. I know, you're sitting there saying, wait a minute. When you retire, why are you still working? Well, because it's government. They make this crap up. You basically retire at the tender young age of 50 or 55, which is the standard retirement age in the government. Oh, yes, no 65 or 70 for government employees. Put those feet up awfully early. 50 to 55 is standard retirement. And then they say, oh, you're retiring, but we need you to stay because you have a specialized skill set. So for 5 years, you will get both your pension and your salary. For 5 years. Double dipping. And then you'll get your pension, 5 years of pension, paid out in a lump sum payment or in an annuity to supplement your annual pension. This is why when you take a look at transparentcalifornia.org, you will find a variety of pension payouts that will knock your socks off. A police captain earning $785,679 in the city of San Diego. This is just in the city of San Diego. Top pension payout last year, $785,679 to a police captain. Oh, police sergeant, $783,601. How about a program manager? $621,027. Now, the average of the top 10 pension payouts was $731,413 last year. The number of pension payouts that are more than $100,000 or more, 726. 726 individuals in just the city of San Diego pension program of about 9,000 pensioners are earning $100,000 or more. The top 100 payouts average $324,242. So the top 100 retirees, government workers, city of San Diego, they're earning an annual pension payout of $324,242. The top 1,000 payouts, think about it, top 1,000 out of 9,000 pensioners. The average for the top 1,000 is $133,629. This is for someone who's retired. This is for an individual. Some of them get Social Security on top of that. Many of them have 401ks contributed by the taxpayers on top of that. Oh yes, bend over and take it. This is disgusting. Now let's take a look at the state of California. In the state of California, they have six-figure pensions. More than 60,000 six-figure pensions last year alone. And the pension payouts are so generous that they violate the law. There's an IRS provision about how you have to basically remain within certain tax-exempt limits for your pension system on the payouts that you are providing workers. And last year alone, more than 1,000 payouts issued by CalPERS and CalSTRS exceeded the IRS limits. In other words, they were so generous that they were illegal under the tax-exempt federal limit program. That's just CalPERS, by the way, 1,200 pensions. Take Lee McDougall. He retired 9 years ago. He was the manager of a small Southern California city. For that small California city, he gets a pension of $337,000 a year. Bend over again and take it. We are being fleeced. This is criminal, but it's legal because state and local government politicians who've been put into office by the government employee union bosses have made this deal happen with government employees. We have to implement reforms. And I want to talk a little bit about my pension reform program. First, what we did in the city of San Diego, and second, what we are proposing to do statewide and how I can do that as your next congressman from the state of California. In the city of San Diego, I enacted a number of pension reforms. First, we needed to close the defined benefit pension program to all government employees and move them to 401ks. That's important because a 401k shifts the risk from the taxpayer to the individual retiree. And there's no more risk than the taxpayers bear with their 401ks. So welcome to the club, baby. It also requires government politicians to pay the bills when they're due. Defined benefit programs allow them to create debt far off into the future that are not, the debt's not funded. It's just a promise. Oh, I'm going to sweeten the pot. I'm going to spike your pension. Someone down the road will have to pay for it, not me. With a 401k, if they say I'm going to give you an extra benefit, you have to pay for it that year because it's called defined contribution. It's a contribution you have to make this year. So a 401k system is key because it appropriately distributes risk and it forces honest budgeting. No phantom debt created off in the future. Second, we need to cap pension pay by capping pensionable pay. So pension payouts are basically determined by years of service times a multiplier times your highest salary. That's the three-legged stool of the pension calculation. If we freeze the pensionable pay of all government employees today, Over a period of 5, 7, 10 years, our pension debt will greatly reduce. Why? Because the pensions are based on an assumed 5 to 6% increase in people's salaries each and every year. So if you actually don't increase the pensionable pay of those individuals over that same period of time, you actually reduce your debt by 5 to 7% every single year. Now, that doesn't mean people won't get salary increases. We can give non-pensionable salary increases where necessary, but not pensionable salary increases. And third, require that all government employees pay at least a dollar-for-dollar match on the cost of their retirement benefits and pension payouts. Now, we were able to get this program implemented in the city of San Diego with Proposition B in 2012, my pension reform initiative. Voters overwhelmingly approved it. We're still trying to fight off the unions trying to overturn it, but we will prevail. But now we have to take things statewide. So let me tell you about the statewide pension reform initiative and what I can do in Congress. I propose to take our San Diego pension reform initiative and apply it statewide. What we need to do is file a ballot measure that would create a 401k system for all government employees. All new hires would go into the 401k. Second, we would cap pensionable pay until we achieve 100% funding in all of our pension systems. Third, we'd require every government employee to match dollar for dollar for the cost of their benefits. Oh, and I would add a couple other provisions. Fourth, we would require that pension systems that are underwater would not be able to give salary increases above 2% per annum to workers, because obviously we need the money to pay off pension debt. We would also require that government employees be allowed to opt out of their pension program if they want extra pay. If they want extra take-home pay, they could opt out voluntarily and negotiate a buyout package, but that the buyout package would have to represent, according to actuarial analysis, 40 to 60% of the value long-term of the pension. I'm okay with buyouts because we can buy down our debt over a period of time. We got to get these employees to renegotiate their pension payouts. We cannot afford these gold-plated pensions. Now, this is going to take a statewide ballot measure, and as you know, the government employee unions are going to fight us, and the politicians will probably change the title on us, just like they did on the gas tax repeal. It won't say pension reform or an initiative to make our government pensions secure and solvent. It'll say Grandma Gonna Eat Cat Food Initiative. That's, they'll come up with something really nasty to call it. And so we are going to have to move forward on our program to take the title and summary out of the hands of politicians for ballot measures. And we're going to talk about that in another episode of the Carl DeMaio Show coming up. But the pension reform initiative has to be one of our major areas of focus, because if we don't fix this crisis, we're going to have higher taxes, less services, higher water bills, and the state of California and local governments are going to go bankrupt. It's going to be a disaster. And these people are going to continue, these government employees are going to continue to cash these six-figure pension payout checks. And I find that pretty offensive, and I think most reasonable taxpayers do as well. So that's our pension reform initiative. What can I do as a member of Congress? Well, first, I'm going to lead the charge. I'm going to raise the money, lead the campaign, author the initiative, build the coalition, collect the signatures, make the case. Second, I plan to introduce legislation in Washington, D.C. to make the IRS rules more stringent on government pension systems, allowing for opt-out programs so that people can get out of their current pension system and settle for pennies on the dollar. I'm also going to have legislation to apply ERISA, which currently has to be complied with for private sector pension programs. We have to apply those same regulations and safeguards to government pension systems, and that should be nationwide. I also think that we shouldn't be reimbursing state and local government for the full fringe benefit rates on employees' for cost reimbursement on government grants and assistance programs. If the pensions are outrageous, if they're lavish, we shouldn't have federal taxpayers subsidizing those gold-plated pensions. We should cap the fringe benefit rate on some of our federal reimbursement programs. These are the reforms that I can start undertaking so that we can make the issue of government pension debt and outrageous government pension payouts part of the conversation nationally. Because this isn't just a California problem, although it's more and most pronounced in California. This is a national problem facing all American taxpayers. So those are the ideas. You can get more on this at my website, carldemaio.com, or reformcalifornia.org. When I do my pension reform initiative, I will be supporting Reform California as the vehicle for us to get the ballot measure implemented. But you can get more information on both websites for the pension reform topic. Plus, if you want to look at pension payouts in your area, you can look it up by government agency. I always like going and giving the city of San Diego payouts because the city of San Diego system is a standalone system, but you can look for any government agency. You can go online at transparentcalifornia.org to see the payouts for yourself. That does it for this episode of the Carl DeMaio Show. I hope you're enjoying these. And if you have any ideas or questions, you can always give us a topic or a tip by emailing info@carldemaio.com. Share the on-demand podcast at forabettercalifornia.com or at carldemaio.show.org. Also encourage your friends to subscribe using their favorite podcast app platform like Spotify or iHeartRadio. We'll pick it up next time on the Carl DeMaio Show. Thank you. This podcast was paid for by Carl DeMaio for Congress. I'm Carl DeMaio, and I proved this message.